our guy, Teddy Covers, right now. Let's see if I can hear him on this one. Teddy Covers, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Jimmy. Love your energy, man. I really appreciate how much you bring to the table in terms of enthusiasm on a daily basis, because I'll tell you what, some days I need a lot of caffeine to get where you're at right now. I appreciate how much excitement and enthusiasm you bring to the show every day, buddy.
I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful to get the opportunity to be doing this. So I'm just thankful, man. I was a bad stand-up comedian for 19 years, Teddy, with a career going nowhere. So I'm very thankful to be here right now. All right, let's get to work. So Teddy, I made a move yesterday after Big Boss's breakdown, and I'd like to hear what you think of this, because generally in baseball, I'm very afraid to go against market moves. But with the breakdown that Big Boss gave us with this Houston-Tulane game, I felt like it had hit the bottom, this total at 55.5, and I pounced. I pounced on the over 55.5, and I see that happening right now. I see 56s and 56.5s on the board. So I feel pretty good. So what do you think about that move? It's my first bet on this card. I was hoping to make more bets during the during the early week, but I wasn't finding the clarity I was hoping for. I jumped on the over 55.5 Houston-Tulane. What do you think?
Win or lose, I love the thought process, the mentality here. The thought process is this line's not going any lower. And as soon as you start seeing some of those leading indicator books saying, yeah, well, whatever, this number's going to go up, that's when you strike. And that 55.5, no longer available, and we're not going to see it again. And that is a positive expectation wager. Win or lose, when you're beating the markets, when you're getting the absolute best of the number, that's what the pros do. And then you let the chips fall where they may. But I'll say this, excellent bet. In terms of the total itself, I really don't have a strong opinion. And I want to go back, by the way, someone asked me about New Mexico State yesterday, and I want to go back to that game real quick, if you'll throw it back to me in just a minute. But in terms of a total for this one, I worry about King's health. I worry about Tulane's defense just shutting him down. Houston's given up 6 yards to carry. Tulane should get theirs. But I worry about the Cougar side of the equation when it comes to the over in this one. Not trying to talk you out of it at all, but it's not anything that I'm going to bet.
Yeah, no, that's it. That was pretty much I'm very comfortable hearing that analysis and breakdown there. And I understand what we're dealing with King. I just thought it was time to pounce, and I feel good about it. We have our NBA expert, Jay Money is Money, in the house, and Jay Money says, tell Teddy I can't wait to get on a show with him. Yeah, Jay, I know that you and Teddy will be magic together. Let's start looking at a couple spots here on this card. Why don't we use our guy, Eric Nisbet, whom we love dearly here in the low bag family. Eric Nisbet is with you on Michigan plus 3.5. He's also on Utah minus 3.5, Missouri minus 9.5, and SMU plus 9.5. What, other than we know that you love the Michigan spot, what jumps out at you on the Eric Nisbet's card? Utah minus 3.5, Missouri minus 9.5, SMU plus 9.5. What's your favorite spot on Nisbet's card?
I like all three of them. No muss, no fuss. They're all, this guy who's here's the short list, I got the short list right over here. All four of those games. Well, one of them's not on the short list. I already bet it. But the other three, I'm at, SMU looks to me to be a bet on team. I worry about their ability to shut down TCU, but I think it was something of a misleading final score for that TCU Purdue game last week. Yes, TCU was a better team, but it was more Purdue bad than TCU good. So I'm definitely looking at the SMU side of that ball game. USC against Utah, look, that one to me is an absolute no-brainer. I don't want the Trojans right now, flat out. Utah, last year, they were down 14-0. USC jumped on them early. And then you blink and it's 34-14 Utah. They just physically pounded USC at the line of scrimmage. There's little reason to think they won't be able to do that this year. Slovis is the quarterback. We don't mind him in a game against a weak defense. I think he'll be fine. When he's under pressure, he's not a quarterback that anyone should.
We've lost Teddy again. We'll get him right back. And okay, Nutflush Johnson, I'm taking my Giants winners from week and letting it ride. Okay, we're good to go. We got Teddy back in action. It just froze for a second. But basically what he was saying was he's backing all of Eric Nisbet's plays. And that's a very exciting card, Eric Nisbet. I'm going to look much closer at your cards. Those of you who have questions, bring in your questions. And let's not get too caught up in Bookie Lover Q saying, just left my son's school. I think his teacher was ready to bust it wide open. I'm going to try to not pay any attention to that, even though it's stuck in my head. I can't seem to get it out of my head, Bookie Lover Q. Okay, let's stay focused here. I'm going to try and stay focused and not think about what Bookie Lover Q just said. Let's move on to Jerry Beatty. He says, ask Teddy about Tulsa over Wyoming, please. Very kind with the please, Jerry Beatty. Let's get after it. What do you think about this Tulsa over Wyoming spot?
Yeah, so I got all kinds of stuff I want to talk about here. So after I finish Tulsa, Wyoming, let me talk New Mexico to Mexico State from yesterday, and I also want to touch on the Missouri game that we talked about, though we were trying to talk about just a minute ago. But now I got them all lost. So Tulsa, Wyoming, fascinating game. Really is. Wyoming's been really good in these type of spots. They've been covering numbers. I think 7 straight in non-conference road games. That's what Bowl's been doing. They've been hanging around in these contests and hanging around pretty good. And Wyoming, by far, I don't know by far. Wyoming has the better of these two defenses. I mean, the Cowboys defense is very real. And getting big plays against Wyoming is not an easy thing to do. And Tulsa's coming off a game where they thought they had Okie State on the ropes. They were leading at halftime. And the second half, the offense couldn't do anything. The defense wore down. It might be a little bit of a flat spot for Tulsa. So given Wyoming's success in this role and giving my concerns about Tulsa's paying full attention to this opponent this week, it'd be Wyoming or pass for me. That's the only way I could look at that ball game. The Missouri game we were talking about, I think Missouri might be real bet on moving forward. They had the one bad game at Wyoming. And Brian, it wasn't even that bad. They led early and fell asleep and absolutely fell asleep. And Bryant made a bunch of mistakes in that ball game. I don't know that I want to be backing Kelly Bryant on the highway against strong defenses, but I think at home against weaker defenses, he's got a shot. So I would look at the Missouri. The only way I would look there, Missouri. Of the three, that's in my mind, the probably the one that I don't get to the window with. I might well get there with SMU. I haven't yet, and I'm already there with Utah over USC. Missouri of the three is the one I'm most on the fence on, but it's on the short list. And last but not least, this is so important. I'm going to give you guys my take on any game that Jimmy asks me. Any game he asks me, any game you punch up, you put in the forum chat or anything like that, I will absolutely give you my take on. But there's strong opinions, there's leans, I'll give you a take, but I don't have a strong, I got nothing. And I felt like someone asked me about New Mexico and New Mexico State yesterday, and it's a game I really don't have a strong opinion on, and I haven't done a lot of work with. If you're following the smaller conferences, if you're doing the work with those teams and paying attention to what's going on in the news with those teams week in, week out, you can absolutely beat the smaller conferences in college football. And you don't even want to ask me what not that I'm not paying attention, I am, but when you have intimate knowledge of Conference USA or Sun Belt or MAC, that is a real thing, and that can help you all season. And those are conferences that I pay attention to, but I can't look you in the eye and say, I have intimate knowledge of what happened in Akron this week. I don't. Or what happened in Las Cruces this week with New Mexico State. I don't. If you're following those games and those teams, or if you have strong takes on those opinions about those games, my take is just my take. There's stronger ones and weaker ones, and they all kind of sound the same. So I guess I'm going to have to say, for New Mexico State yesterday, I felt like I did you a disservice saying, I can only take the dog. And it's a game that I really didn't put a lot of time into. So be aware that there's some games I'm going to give you whatever opinion I have. Some opinions definitely stronger than others. And Jimmy, you can ask me, hey, is this a strong opinion? Is this a lean? Is this you got to talk about this game, so talk about it. So there is a differential between some of the opinions that I'm giving in terms of the strength. And that one stood out to me yesterday. I was thinking about it all night. I'm like, I didn't do a good job with that because I didn't, I talked them out of something in a game I had no opinion on, and I don't want to do that for you guys. So that's a long way of saying, what game are we talking about? Also, I like Wyoming.
I love that. I love that breakdown. And one of the fun things that the chat and the viewers get to do is they get to decide when they trust isn't the word, but when they think, this breakdown is I don't know, heartfelt isn't even the right word, but it's Pete Loshak used to always talk about capping the capper. So the more comfortable that they get with us, then the more that the viewers will see, oh, this is an angle that he really believes in. Oh, this is not quite as heartfelt, but I love that. Walla Doe says Teddy's the man. Alex Ramirez says Teddy's wisdom. Perfect rotation is Teddy's right. These lower conferences you can take over. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Okay, we have a lot of questions coming in and keep rolling. Day Junior Smile, though, has a question. Oh, sorry, Day Junior Smile. I'm going to get to Day Junior Smile's the favorite college picks this week at near the end of the show. And I'm also going to get in, we have a question about the NFL game, the Thursday nighter, about the under from Eric Nisbet, and I'm going to get to that at the end of the show as well, because I really love my angle on the Jaguars team total under. We will get to all that. Okay, let's stay focused here and keep rolling along with these looks and questions from the chat. Rod Zawacki says, can you ask Teddy about my plays here this weekend? And these are his plays. Texas -6. Oregon -11.5, and he's on Wisconsin. So, Rod, we already know that, Teddy is against almost everybody in the chat, and he's won a lot of people in the chat over to the Michigan side. So we don't need to go back to that. We've hammered that often. But let's talk about that Texas big game against Oklahoma State, and then Oregon -11, the first two spots on Rod Zawacki's card.
So I wouldn't talk you out either play. I'm disappointed in your numbers, especially when you're betting early in the week. You're betting early in the week, you can't be laying 6 with Texas. You can find a 5. There's 5s out there right now. Same thing with Oregon. There's 10.5s. There's, it's once you, if you're gonna get down early, make sure you're getting the best of the number, and that's so important. And again, that's something that SBR can help you with, because there's so many sports books that you can get involved with. If you have an account at 1, split it. Get an account at 2. If you have an account at 2, add another one. 3. The ability to line shop is so key, and getting those extra half points. And I don't want to, bitch, oh my God, you laid 6, you laid 5. It's not a key number. I'm aware. But it's the process that we're trying to work on here, where when you're getting the best of the number every time, or close to the best of the number every time, it's going to have an impact, long-term impact on your bottom line. Even if it's only 1 or 2%, if you turn 1% of your losses into pushes and 1% of your pushes into wins, watch what that does over 1,000 bets to your bankroll. It's an enormous difference. Even those little edges over time really pay off. Now, the specific games you were talking about, and I like them both. I'm lecturing and I'm not thinking about the game. I got to get a scratch pad over here, so when you ask me, I could do it. You remember the games we were talking about? I'm so sorry.
Yes, Rod Zawacki's on Texas -6, Oregon -11.
Yeah, I like both sides. I wouldn't talk you out of either side at all. I think that Oklahoma State's going to have a hard time stopping Texas. The only question is whether the Longhorns defense is going to stop the Cowboys. I think that Texas is going to get theirs, and Texas team total over and game over. It all makes sense to me. My biggest concern laying with Texas is just whether defense is going to get stops. But I'm confident that Texas's offense is going to get the job done. And look, Oregon, Stanford, the only way to play the game is Oregon. I don't know that I get there. I don't. The price just isn't right in a series where Stanford has been very good. And, Stanford's whole recruiting changed based on the fact that David Shaw was losing to Oregon badly his first couple of years. And since that time, it's been a Stanford series every year. And the Cardinals are banged up beyond belief. Their linebacking core is a disaster. Their offensive line is a disaster. This is not a team I want any part of right now. But again, is the price right? 10.5, 11, 11.5. How high is it going to go? I'll only take Oregon, but I don't think the price is right there for me.
Don't think the price is right. Okay, we have some cappers sending in their action and wants to know what you think of it. I love this stuff. Let's go on to Raven in the Desert, whom I rolled with some of his small schools, and man, he went 6-2 with his small school looks. Here he is with his bigger looks. He's putting together a parlay with Tulsa money line, Utah money line, Texas money line, New Mexico money line. Okay, so we already talked about those games. Sorry, I had to look a little closer at what he was on. Here's Matt Randall saying NC State, Ball State over. And Teddy, let me tell you a little something about Matt Randall. He's been giving the Taint play of the days here, and they've become the most popular play of the day of anybody since the show's inception.
Cool.
the most popular play of the day. He also has a young son named Briggs who is just in the hospital, and he was in the hospital. It was an emergency situation, 3 months old.
Oh, no.
And we were just so worried, and he was in there, and they had to take, there was a block, and they had to get it out of him, and it turns out that it was benign, and Briggs is now at home with Matt, healing, and he just means so enormously much to the show. So when I mention Matt Randall, now you'll know who, because you're going to get to know more and more of these low baggers, and Matt Randall just means so much to us in the show. So Matt Randall, he's at home now with Briggsy. Briggs, 3.5 months old, and he's healing, and he's getting better. And I know how the strength that happens in a family when you go through experiences like this. The bond that happens between two people becomes stronger than anything that exists in the world, and that's what's happening for Matt Randall right now. Matt Randall is on the NC State Ball State over 59. What do you think about that spot?
To be honest, it's not anything that I have a strong opinion on whatsoever. I would think that the Wolfpack would be able to move the football fairly easily on the Cardinal defense. Cardinal defense hasn't impressed me at all. I haven't gotten a sense that once they have this game in control, which they should have by halftime, they're going to continue to push pace or do anything in the second half of this ball game. So maybe a first half over makes sense, just in a theoretical standpoint. That's one that's certainly a look that I'd be, if I was going to bet the over, I might split it between full game and half, or do some adjustment to get that first half in there, because I think the first half is more likely to be higher scoring than the second half. Just that's what happens a lot at this time. Again, we talk about the nuances of college football. First couple of weeks of non-conference games are not like this last week or two of non-conference games, where the focus isn't on what's the game you're playing this week, is the game you're playing next week. So with NC State, I would be a little bit concerned with the full game. I'm not convinced they're going to go hard for 60 minutes here.
I like that look on the first half. Something that I've done with Matt's plays, because Matt usually his team plays if they are full game, and I've often taken the first half and correlated with whatever he's on and had great success there. Okay, we have some questions coming in from Moses. We have lots of questions coming in, but I need to ask about Rich G. Rich G is like in the over in the Oregon-Stanford game. What do you think of the over in that game with all of Stanford's deficiencies at linebacker?
I certainly wouldn't talk you out of it. That's a play that makes a ton of sense. And Stanford showed us something last week. They got crushed in the first half against UCF. They came out after halftime. They could have laid down. It could have been a nothing game. But they didn't. They fought. The offense came out, and Costello was throwing the ball all over the place. And for a minute there, if you had UCF, you weren't sweating, but you were a little bit concerned. You were, hey, I better not turn this off just yet. And then UCF responded with another TD against Stanford's D, and it was a problem solved. But Cardinal offense should be able to move the football here. And if Oregon gets the chance, they will. They'll absolutely run it down Stanford's throat. But the recent series history is not one of overs. That Oregon offense hasn't worked as well against Stanford's defense since the recruiting changes for David Shaw.
Oh God, this is exciting. It's so funny. So some days I feel like, I don't have the clarity. Today, I feel like I'm getting a ton of clarity on looks that I'm going to get involved in. We have a question and lots of questions. Keep rolling them in. Here's a question from our DJ Big Boss, who is another guy who's just put so much energy into the show. And I would not be sitting here if it wasn't for the energy that guys like Big Boss have put into the show. He says, can we get Teddy's look on Michigan State versus Northwestern? I know we've spoken about it throughout the week, but has there become even more clarity for you in this game? Because we had a lot of people talking about Northwestern plus the points yesterday.
Yeah, so and absolutely. I feel like Tuesday is going to be my weakest day on the show when it comes to college football, because Mondays I spend my focus on NFL. Sundays I'm go through every box. Saturday night and Sunday I'm going through every box score and making my power ratings, so I'm up on it. And then Monday's a little bit different. And then Tuesdays, I spend a lot of time in college football. So a lot of the stuff that I'm like, well, I kind of lean this way, and now I've done a little bit of work on the game, like this one, that I'm happy to share with you, because I think my take is fleshed out a little bit over where it was when we first discussed this game a day or two ago. And as for Big Boss, I'll tell you what, the SBR conference, I was at, 2 or 3 of them. There was in Costa Rica, and then there was the one in Vegas. But I met DJ at the one in Vegas. And of all the people I met that weekend, I think he's the most memorable guy. I met him, and I'm like, I'm friends with this guy forever. Every time he's in town, he better call me. It was just one of those deals where it just, I just liked him. He's just a really easy guy to get along with. And now I forgot the freaking game. I got to be writing this stuff down. And I know it was a game I had an opinion on. What game were you? Oh, Michigan State, Northwestern. So the trend is all Northwestern. It's an underdog series. The road team's been winning in the series. The Northwestern beat them last year in East Lansing. Northwestern is a dog. Sparty's been a terrible favorite. They've been a terrible road favorite. Every trend and angle points towards Northwestern in this ballgame. I'm not betting Northwestern, flat out. No way, no how. Sparty's defense is real. Everything we've seen from Michigan State's defense has been as good or better than advertised. This squad, you're not going to be able to move the football against this stop unit. And when you look at the other end of the equation, look, Northwestern's done nothing to make me excited on offense yet. And Hunter Johnson's the weaker of the two QBs. He looked bad again last week. I don't know how Northwestern scores. So maybe they can hold Sparty to a touchdown like Arizona State did last week and they score 7-0 or 7-3. It could be a really low scoring game like that. And Sparty doesn't cover. But, you want to bet Northwestern team total under. That's one that makes sense to me. And if I had to play, I would lay with Michigan State. I'm going contrarian in the Big Ten this week, and I'm going against all the trends, obviously. The Michigan-Wisconsin, I ran it. The host has won 9 of the last 10, where it's been a home team series. I don't care. The trends are one piece of the puzzle. I will never make a bet just on a trend or angle. And you saw that there has to be something behind it. You're allowed to make case, as we're building cases for these teams. You're talking about clarity. You're building cases, one after the next after the next. Is the case strong enough? You make a wager. The case isn't strong enough. Maybe you watch and learn. And this is a spot where is the case strong enough? No, I'm not going to get there with Sparty, but I feel like I should.
Wow, I like that. I like that breakdown. And the Northwestern team total under seems very, very appealing. We have our guys, Teddy, coming to Vegas for the Breeders' Cup. That's November 1st, 2nd, the weekend of November 1st, 2nd. DJ Big
Sure.
Boss, Big Ragu, Wally George. I'm hoping that Nutflush Allen. They're all hoping to hang with you while they are there. So just want you to know that date. It's right at the Breeders' Cup, and they'll be getting in touch with you because they want a little time with the legend Teddy Covers.
Just to warn you, once college hoops and NBA start, and we're in college football and NFL like that, from mid-October till after Thanksgiving, it's. You're burning the candle on both ends, flat out. And I'd love to go out and see it. Maybe we'll be able to work something out. But ain't no way I'm going to be hanging out all day on a Saturday. Breeders' Cup's always super fun in Vegas. It really is. This town goes all out for Breeders' Cup, and every sportsbook is packed. That's one of the busiest weekends of the year in the sports books. But it's busy for a reason. It's a very busy time. Looking forward to it. I'll break bread. I'll make it out there. I'm sure we'll be able to run do something. But I ain't going to hang out all day.
They just
unless we're having too much fun. Every once in a while that happens.
They just need a little slice of Teddy Covers. Paco Healy going to be there too. Speaking of Dom Ricci, who's going to be coming in from New York to Vegas for that weekend, he says, what about Air Force at Boise? We were all on Air Force last week. Dom Ricci, we were all on Air Force, but Dom Ricci had the balls to take him on the money line. I did not. I took him plus 3.5. Respect to Dom Ricci. He says, is this -8 for Boise a little high? Let's see what movement we've had in the last 24 hours or so. And it's, now a 7.5. 7.5 at Bookmaker. What do you think about this Air Force Boise Friday night action in NCAA football?
I will say this. If you like Air Force, bet them sooner, not later. You can still find 8.5s out there right now. And from all indications, that number's not going to be around for too much longer. So if you like the Falcons, there is some sense of urgency, and there's a need to line shop as we speak. So again, something that SBR can help you with when it comes to line shopping. When it comes to the game itself, I have really mixed feelings. I really do. It's not a game I'm going to bet. Part of me thinks that Boise's passing game is just going to be too much for Air Force's secondary to handle. And then on the other hand, part of me says, look, Colorado's passing game didn't get the job done last week. Maybe this Falcons secondary is a good notch or two better than what we've seen. But the last 2 years, Boise offensively has been able to move the football up and down the field against this Air Force defense, and largely through the passing game. And Boise, of course, they benched the Frosh QB last week in the third quarter, woke them up a little bit. It might be a wake-up spot for the Broncos. That's something that, I always like to pay attention to is, here's a guy who comes on the scene and everyone's paying attention. Wow, look at this kid. And the coach is like, settle down, get your act together. That tends to be a bet-on spot moving forward, as long as the chemistry is not broken. With the Frost QB, I would think that would be the case. But Boise's been bad as home chalk. I mean, bad, consistently bad, year in, year out bad. This was the strongest home field in college football 15 years ago. I had Boise with a 7-point home field at one point. 2001, 2002, 3, 4. Not anymore. The blue turf was the strongest. Look at the numbers. They've been a money loser, consistent money loser. We saw it against Marshall in week 2 for Boise, where they didn't sniff a point spread cover in that game, and that worries me here for the Broncos. So it's a detailed analysis, I guess, but it's not a game I'm betting. I could see Boise putting up points in bunches here, and I could see Air Force beating them outright. When I have that type of situation, I'll be watching, but I won't be betting.
That's where I'm at too. I also historically know, I know I talk often about the biases, the vividness bias, the recency bias. I read books on psychology that have nothing to do with gambling, but I can relate them to gambling. And when I score when I have an easy win with a team, my automatic instinct, and I have to block it, is to go right back to it. And so I always pause and say, you're looking at a different game. Let's try to put everything that happened last week, even though it's important for your capping, but sort of out the door. Let's keep rolling.
Let me jump in, Jimmy. Let me answer that real quick, because there's something to be said for, if you catch a ticket with a team last week, ride them again. That's how you ride streaks. And if there's one way to make money betting sports, it's, God, you riding streaks. That's, to me, of all the things you can do right, betting a team that's not priced properly in the marketplace, whether it's I was betting against this team, so I want to bet against them again this week, or betting on this team, so I want to bet on them again the next week. That's a moneymaker. That's not a bad strategy. And I too read a ton of books that are not necessarily based on sports and sports betting. Snap Judgment, Fooled by Randomness. There's dozens. Literally, there's all these books out there that are very, very helpful in terms of handicapping your own mind and your own biases. And they're a big piece of the equation. I encourage any of you or all of you, we should make a list, Jimmy, of some of these books that I've got a whole stack of them on my bookcase like there. Let me make a list for you guys if anyone's interested in that sort of thing, because it is absolutely a required reading. It's not just which team's better than that team. It's, how do I keep my brain right? How do I avoid the mistakes again and again? All this type of stuff makes, what are my own inherent biases? They're so key. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, please do on stuff like that. Please, always do. For me, and Elio just got it. Elio just got the book that absolutely rocked my whole world. And it was Michael Lewis's The Undoing Project, based on these 2 Israeli psychologists. And it just focuses on the vividness biases and the recency biases. The first chapter is on sports. It's about the Houston Rockets general manager Maroney, and it's absolutely the best book I've ever read about gambling. It has nothing to do with gambling. Okay, let's keep. And Prince of the City says, I read a picture book. Okay, nice, Prince of the City. Let's all stay together on this. Okay, so moving forward, I had stuff to hit you with immediately, and now it is. It was Moses, my guy Moses Saucedo. Thank you for your patience, Moses. Moses wanted to know about this Arkansas San Jose State game. Arkansas San Jose State in Arkansas. Arkansas opening up at -21, and it hasn't moved, Teddy, but the total has moved fast. Open at 57.5. It's 60.5 at Pinnacle. That's the lowest you can find it. 61.5 at Bookmaker, 61 everywhere else. San Jose State, Arkansas, Teddy.
So San Jose State is not going to match up well with even a lower level SEC team. The quarterback Love is okay, and by okay I mean he's okay. He's not a good quarterback, but he's okay. Defensively, they're pedestrian. They're going to have size and speed issues. Big time against Arkansas. I'm not excited about the dog in this game, as long as the favorite's interested. And I think the favorite might be interested. But for all that, last week they're laying doubles in a revenge spot against Colorado State. And there we are. Was it fourth quarter, late third quarter when Hill got hurt? The total score's tied, the 35 all. And then Arkansas pulls away with 3 touchdowns late. But they're supposed to kill Colorado State in that spot last week, and they didn't until the end. And that tight end made the incredible play where there was 5 Colorado Rams defenders on him. He's like, yeah, whatever. I'll bounce off you guys and get in the end zone. That could happen a lot against San Jose. They don't have a defense that is going to be able to handle the heat, humidity, size, speed. But Arkansas got lit up by Colorado State last week till the quarterback hurt. Is that a team you really want to lay this type of price with? I don't. I can understand why the number hasn't moved at all in this game. I'm pretty sure my number was right where the number is 21, right? And my number was right there. So it's not anything that I'm going to bet.
Okay, so we got to put a bow on this show. Let me go back to the spots that you liked the most on Monday. So here we are on Wednesday, and I put question marks beside them all because we're watching your process. That's one of the fun things about, there's so many things we're getting out of having you every day on the show. But one is watching your process and understanding your process, and then we will try to emulate the process. And let's go with this. So I have question marks beside all these looks, and let us know since Monday, in 48 hours, which of these is jumping out at you more? Which of these do you not like the line? And I don't know, I wish we had more time for this, but this is what you liked on Monday. App State, Auburn, Missouri, Washington, Michigan, Boston College, Western Michigan, Kent State, SMU, Oregon, Notre Dame, Louisville. Now, we've already heard about Oregon and the price. The price at -11, not appealing to you, so we know that. But let's talk about these others. So I'm going to give you again: App State, Auburn, Missouri, Washington, Michigan,
one at a time.
BC.
Just run one at a time, and I'll give you a quick answer on each one.
Beautiful. App State.
App State. I've talked myself out of App State. The price wasn't right. The field goal is a little bit too short there. So that's one that is no longer one that it's not one that I'm considering anymore.
Auburn.
I still lean that way. I doubt I get to the window with Auburn right now. I don't think so.
Missouri.
I still like Missouri. We talked about them a little bit earlier. They're absolutely on the short list. I have not pulled the trigger yet.
Washington.
Yeah, I like Washington a lot. I expect Washington on my card, and 6.5 time to buy is now before that gets to 7.
Okay, we know Michigan is a yes. Boston College.
Yeah, I still like BC. Again, that's one you'll want to lock in at 7 now if you like it. And that number could move based on Rutgers' quarterback situation. Carter hurt, and still, I think he's going to play. But that line could go. The only way that line is going is up. So grab it. Is that still 7? You can still get 7s now, can't you? With BC?
Yes, I believe so.
Let me just see. And you can keep asking while I'm looking.
Okay. Western Michigan.
Crap. BC's at 8 now. They'd already got bet up this morning. Western Michigan, it's serious. I talked myself out of Western Michigan. If I do anything there, it'll be the over.
Okay.
I remember the game from last year. Remember that game that Syracuse jumped all over them, and then Western put up like 40 points on them in the second half. It was a shootout. I wouldn't be surprised this one's the same way.
Kent State.
No, I talked myself out of when you start talking about the bottom tier MAC schools, even catching points and whatever. That's one I've talked myself out of. And Kent's laying this week.
SMU.
I'm sorry. SMU we talked about. I still absolutely have SMU on the short list. I have not pulled the trigger yet, but I may.
Okay, and we know your feelings about Oregon. Notre Dame.
Yeah. I'm tempted. I'm still tempted by Notre Dame. I haven't pulled yet. I haven't bet it yet, but it's the only way I would bet that game, and I'm still very tempted on the short list. I haven't changed my opinion.
Louisville, Teddy?
Oh, Louisville. I still lean Louisville. I don't think I'm going to necessarily get to the window with Louisville, but it's the only way I would bet the game. If you're betting that one, it's Louisville or pass.
Beautiful. That was okay. I love this. And the more we work together, the more I can be able to get the most out of it. And I'm learning how to do that as well. This is fun. Okay, so we need to put a bow on this show, but I do want your look 32 hours before. 34 hours before Thursday night football. I've already locked in the Jaguars team total under 19.5. I'm a little concerned about Jalen Ramsey being traded at any moment. I do not want to have the under in my pocket if Jalen Ramsey's traded before game time. So because of that, I want to focus on what offense is doing nothing against a Titan defense that I believe in, and that's that Minshew, Fournette, and the Jags. So I'm on the Jags team total under 19.5. Do you have a move on Thursday Night Football, and what do you think about my team total under?
I absolutely like your team total under. I would, and no, I wouldn't even try to talk about it, but every point is right. I bet the Titans. I laid them on the money line. I think I laid minus 121 or minus 122 on Tennessee. Rather than laying the 1.5, I decided to do it with the money line wager. That way you're not sweating any, silliness at the end of the game if it comes to a 2-point conversion of that. And Thursday night games can get silly in that regard. So I think Tennessee's a better team, flat out. And I love them coming off a loss. And I love the fact that the Jags went down to the wire last week and couldn't get there. And I do not believe in Gardner Minshew yet. No, not on a short week. No way.
And do you feel more comfortable taking a road team on Thursday Night Football this early in the season than you would maybe 6 weeks from now?
Absolutely. Yes.
I
Much
like
more
it.
comfortable early in the season than I would in October or November. But I mean, I don't want the rookie coaches on Thursday Night Football. I don't want the rookie quarterbacks on Thursday Night Football. And that's, home, road, doesn't matter. I don't want the rookie QBs without enough time to prepare.
No, that makes great, excellent sense. What a treat it is to roll with you, Teddy. The chat loves it. I love it. We are just honored to get a chance to work with you, to hear your process, to break down these games, all encompassing. It's just very, very, very enjoyable for us. Teddy Covers, please hit us with your Twitter handle. All low baggers out there, follow Teddy on Twitter. He's very active and a very fun follow. Teddy, what is your Twitter handle?
At Teddy_covers on Twitter. I appreciate the time, guys. Thank you so much. And I'm telling you, it's fun for me every day, Jimmy. I really enjoy it, and I look forward to doing it again tomorrow.
So do
Cheers.
we. So do we look forward to doing it again tomorrow. There he is, Teddy Covers, joining Benny with the Bag every morning